This episode is brought to you by our friends at Rix. Rix is an Australian lifestyle brand founded with a mission to transform the eyewear industry by creating carefully crafted eyewear that inspires confidence. Everybody should be able to enjoy a touch of luxury and the confidence it brings. See the world differently today. Head online now at rixeyewear.com.au and check it out. Righto, let's get into the show. Well, Spendy, welcome to Tommy Talks.
Thank you for having me, Tommy Shares. I'm thrilled to be here.
For everyone out there listening or watching, we're very lucky. You've just flown in from Sydney, the greatest nutritionist in the world, if you're calling by me. But I really appreciate you getting to Melbourne and jumping on the podcast. It's something different. We've done a lot of athletes. And you know what? I think you're my first female guest, which is fantastic.
There we go.
Because I've been copying it from a few people. When are you going to get a female on? Well, I've been thinking about, who will it be? It is an American sports type. It is a sports club. So it's great to see that you're our first female guest.
Happy to represent. Thank you for having me on.
I know. Now, anyone that doesn't know, me and Spendy go way back at the Giants. I was injured a lot, so I'd come into your office and ask you 1,000 questions on the day, just the ones that I wanted the answers to. But since finishing footy, I've just noticed how many people ask me questions about nutrition and especially sports nutrition. And there's a little bit of a link with training as well. I think the majority of the people know how to get to the gym and exercise, but it's that next step, that nutrition where they really let themselves down and they wonder why they can't get to that next step with whatever their goals are. So, yeah, I'm very excited to drop something later with you that we've got a little announcement. But, first of all, the reason I wanted to do a podcast with you was just to get your background on your industry and how you get involved and all the sports you've been involved with. How do you do it?
Yeah, it's been a pretty amazing ride, and I think I didn't probably stop and look back and think, oh my goodness, this is what I've done only when COVID hit. So, yeah, as mentioned, I'm a qualification-wise an advanced sports dietitian. So basically to be a sports dietitian, if you want to work with athletes, you have to go to university. It's generally 2 degrees these days, so it's 5 years. And then you need to go on and do even further study. So you need to then do a sports dietitian. It's a 4-day course. I think they've changed it. It's a bit more like of an online program now, but you have to meet qualification to even, have the opportunity. For me, I was always sports nutrition was the vibe, was the vision. I was, very active child and adolescent, had no idea what I was doing. I was very underfueled. I was a swimmer. Went and saw a sports dietitian and it was like, I love food. I love people. I love travel. I love athletes. This is what I want to do. So, fast forward 5 years at uni, extra studies, a few years in a hospital. And that whole time, the first 3 years when I was out working in a hospital, it was like, how do I get into sport? Who do I need to know? Who do I need to network with? Who do I need to intern for? And that was really kind of what led to that first contract at the Sharks, which was in 2013. So I am a Sydney gal. There's a lot more NRL teams in Sydney. So the Cronulla Sharks were my first team. Ended up being there for 8 seasons. So that was pretty incredible, pretty interesting, very different people. Not good or bad, just different. And then, end of that year, the opportunity at the Giants popped up. So I remember meeting Gubby and Lambo at the old country club. And the interview happened there and, I got a 1 day a week role. But obviously when I met you, it was full-time, so it really kind of, progressed quite a lot. 8 years with the Giants was amazing. Probably not meant to have favourites, but, my time at the Giants was definitely very much a career highlight. But, while that all kind of happened, Sydney Kings, 5 seasons with them, the Western Sydney Wanderers, a couple of seasons there, Giants netball. So this probably sounds like a lot of male sport, and there has been, but there's been a season with the AFLW and also 5 seasons with the Giants netball and a season with the Waratahs as well. So I don't think I've missed one. It's basically been all sports but cricket. Nothing against cricket, just, I don't know, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And but I mean, to your question, how did I get into it? So there's the study component, there's the connection and the networking component, there was the volunteering and the interning. It's probably like any profession that's really sought after. You need to have the qualifications, have the drive, be persistent. And it does probably require some free work to really get in, because it's kind of one of those jobs. It's an amazing job, but it's not necessarily like a high-paying job, especially when you start with. So you need to do it for the love, and you meet amazing people along the way. But yeah, don't know if that answers the question, but I think it kind of pieces it all together in some way, shape or form.
No, it's great. You've literally nailed that question, just so you know. I think that's fantastic for everyone out there listening, to be involved in so many different sports with so many different bodies and shapes and goals and so, you know what I mean? It's great, because when we get to what we're going to drop later on, we're not talking to just one audience. We're talking to a fair chunk of the, the population. When you were, let's go back before we get into all these sporting codes that you work with, right? So you're 18 years old and you went to uni for 5 years?
Yeah. So I did 3 years of an undergrad, and then at the end of that, I was like, I'm over this. I want to go and work and earn some money. So then I actually took a year off and I worked at Weight Watchers for a year in customer service. And 6 months into that, I was like, what are you doing? You always wanted to do this. You're pretty driven, like pretty academic, sporty type of student. No offense to, customer service at Weight Watchers, but it was kind of like, this is not for me. So probably had other priorities. Like I was 21, going out, living my best 21-year-old life. And 6 months into that, I remember I think I applied for some other role which, from an academic sense was way overqualified for, but didn't have the experience, and I didn't get it. And then that was the penny dropping. It was like, right, back to uni you go, off to do your 2 more years of your masters, and then progress on from there.
That's great. And when you got the gig to, I guess, help out at the Sharks, what were you doing at the start compared to, obviously I've seen you got the team of 4 when you're humming. So were you one of those, what do you call them? Interns that are just cutting up the fruit and putting the muesli and putting all the snacks together. Is that what you were doing early days?
I remember at the Sharks, so it was off the back of the scandal. So it was after...
What was the scandal? I'm not sure what it was.
Similar to Essendon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So similar, just, yeah.
So it's off the back of that. So like, we need to clean all this up. We need to get you in and a few other things in.
I was very, and I mean, most sports, but particularly NRL, like from a funding point of view, and there's always funds for things which I guess are of high priority, but, I think nutrition is starting to be of more priority in the professional sporting sense, but, it's kind of often seen as a nicety rather than a necessity. But yeah, it was essentially off the back of that, like, we need to get someone in, and it came from a recommendation. So a lady that was basically my mentor and I did a lot of like learning and free work for, she put my name forward, and I remember walking in, I think it was, the head coach, and there was like one, what the Giants were like in the performance department. There was kind of one guy wearing all of the shirts in the performance department. And I think it was like, a $3,000 contract. It was basically come in, do skin folds, see players if they want to be seen, and just like, we're not going to force anything on them, but you'll be there for the if and the when it's needed. But to be honest, it was a lot of skin folds. Everything that you were exposed to at the Giants, the food, the supplements, that beast of a program, which was amazing to kind of run. NRL, there was nothing like that going on there at the time. Yeah,
it was a beast of a program, and I miss it so much. I used to walk in, be such an elite operator. I think we used to complain sometimes we wouldn't take all the vitamins and all the things you'd give us. Is that how you become more successful, I guess, with a bigger budget from the club to then allow you and your department to do what you want to do? Because without the budget, you don't really get to put all those snacks and all those options on the table.
You can be creative. Like, I think, the thing that I've loved across all of those teams, like, they were all differing like service levels and budgets, and it's kind of like, what are your big rocks, what are your priorities, and how do you show value? And me, I love a bit of a negotiation and a bit of a hustle, so it might be talking to local cafes who often love sporting teams or whatever, and seeing what can be done. It might be getting players to contribute or pay for the food because they'd be doing it anyway, but if you could kind of negotiate with people to give them more. So yeah, there was so many different ways to go about it, but I think in the professional sports sense, there's so much of the telling, but if you can do and provide and, control the environment, which is another way of educating, that's how you get the biggest kind of improvement, because it's, as you're in at the club pre-season at 7 a.m, you're out the door at 4 p.m. And yes, you can pack the food and bring it, but when there's so much training going on, if it's one less thing and it's just there and it's provided, it just makes it so much more efficient and effective.
Just on that, you spoke about if you've got a budget, you got to get creative and you prioritize what's important. What is important at a sporting club for you? If you've got, the medium-sized budget, so not the large one, what are you prioritizing that budget going towards?
So starting at the foundation, the food is definitely the priority over the supplements. So it's can we provide something that's going to support the fueling and support the recovery? That's where you would definitely start. And then often there might be sponsorships involved. So, again, that's where that maybe happy medium comes in. You can kind of get the sponsorship guys involved and see what kind of deals they can do, as well as having conversations with, those local kind of providers yourself. But food first always. If you think about it, we eat 5-6 times a day. AFL player in a preseason could be even more, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, you need to start with the food and what's available there.
What food are we talking? Let's break it down for the listeners. We're going to get into the finer details of things with our little exciting announcement coming later on. But what food are we fueling? What are you talking about?
So if we're talking breakfast, we want those whole grain carbohydrates like oats, good quality breads, fruit as well can sit in there. We also want our proteins like our eggs or our Greek yogurts. We maybe want some smoked salmon. If we're talking colours, which I'm big on, so you'll probably hear me touch on that quite a lot, but it's our fruits and our veggies, which, look, they're not going to necessarily provide the fuel for you to go out on the track. They do provide some carbohydrates, but that's about a professional athlete being a healthy person. And if they're healthy and they're getting enough of all of the different types of foods, there's reduced risk of injury, reduced risk of illness. So that's kind of that global aspect of health. And then we want our healthy fats, which are our anti-inflammatory. So smoked salmon, avocado, extra virgin olive oil, big on that, love that. So when they arrive, we want that breakfast to go. And then leading out to the track, there would be these more fast digesting carbohydrates. So fruit cut up, dried fruit, we'd have lollies at times, gels, pretzels, rice crackers. I'm digging back into the memory. It's been a while since digging back into the archives, but those types of things, yeah.
Now, the reason that we're honestly talking is because I guess I'm not in the system anymore and I'm now the average Joe and, man of the people. Let's say we're not at a footy club or a sporting club. Are these the same meals that we should be consuming before work when we have a workout? I mean, you just mentioned, I want everyone to visualize this. As you said, we've had breakfast. We've probably had a few team meetings. We've done, warmed our bodies up so we can go out there and train. So we've done a little bit of, we used to call it AMP, bit of mobility, whatever it is. And then we'd go out to the track and you'd offer all those little snacks. Are they the things that we should be avoiding in the real world? Because we're not going to go out there and run 15 Ks like a pre-season? Or are you still saying, no, have those little snacks before your workout?
There's definitely principles that apply. So, if you're training for performance, so if you're like, I want to get fitter, I want to get faster, I want to get stronger, you need to be eating before you go to training. So if you're an early morning, if you're a tradie and you're going to the gym in the morning and then you're off to work, ideally you want to get something in, even if it's small, like a banana or a yogurt or something you can just grab and have. And then afterwards you want something prepped. So it might be like an overnight oats, really popular, might be a smoothie that you've made. I love to talk about deconstructed yogurt bowls, which is basically like a Greek yogurt, a muesli bar, and maybe like a piece of fruit, which essentially, you can imagine it's a nice yogurt bowl with muesli and fruit, but you're just grabbing and going. So yeah, the golden rule, if you're training for performance, you need to train with fuel on board. It doesn't mean maybe having lollies before your gym or your whatever session that you're doing. We want to look at maybe other options. But if you're an AFL player, even if that's, recreational and preseason training, a couple of hours, if that's something easy for you to take on before you train, 150%, you should be doing that.
It's great. So I love the tradie. We'll start with that, that person, the tradie. Let's go. Big shout out to my mate, Benny Mack. He's actually signed up to your program. Just on your program, what is your program? So we're going to touch on it later, but just drop it now so we can get people just to put the feelers out there, your little taste tester.
So I have two. So there's my premium coaching programs. You can work with me one-on-one. You kind of commit to that for a period of time. Or I've also gone out and, I want to spread the message of what I've learned from all of this experience, and I've got a program called Eat Like the Elite. So it's all about harnessing performance nutrition and learning how to apply it to your life. So whether that's for sport or just feeling your best. And so that's like an online membership program. So
I love it.
2 options, something for everyone.
I love it. And the reason I dropped the great man, Benny Mack, he has signed up to the program. He reached out to me and said, what do you think? I said, mate, if you're going to look after yourself, you've got to sign up. He signed up and he is loving it. Just so you know, he's obsessed with it. He's a real elite operator. And the reason I mentioned him, he's a tradie. So he's a sparky. He gets up really early and he goes to the gym and then he's on the tools all day till about 3. Talk to me about what he should be eating in the morning.
So because of what he was training for, performance, going to the gym, it was having something before he went just to kickstart it. So ideally, if you can get a little bit of carbs and protein just with his goals, so yogurt, glass of milk even, but, yogurt or milk are generally 2 pretty easy ones to get down. But look, if that's like, can't fathom having that at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, even just a piece of fruit just to have something.
So banana, first thing.
Banana, yep.
Glass of water.
Glass of water. Hydration's important, yeah, but if you can get even a little bit of juice or again milk, like I would go for the milk because you get the carbs, the protein and the fluids there.
Beautiful.
So
okay.
Coffee, love that.
Okay, so he's woken up.
Coffee and a banana.
Coffee, banana, heads to the gym, an hour workout, amazing workout, strength program, a little bit of HIIT. Post that, he's about to, have a shower, get ready, has to, fuel up for the day and also put the nutrition in the rig so it recovers and rebuilds. What are we eating in that slot? So
something I really see is commonly people go, I'm going to have a protein shake, which that's fine, that can work, but it's like, what are you having with that? Often it's a protein shake and water. So within 30 or 60 minutes after a session, you want that protein. So, if you want to go with a shake option, or again, we've got our dairy, our milk and our yogurt, or our soy milk or our eggs. But again, some of these kind of popular ones are that kind of deconstructed yogurt, like it's literally a pouch, a bar and a piece of fruit. Or maybe we've prepped like an overnight oats where we've maybe even mixed some protein powder and some milk together, soaked the oats in that, topped it with a bit of fruit, bang, easy, very nutritious, gives you everything that you need.
That's enough fuel for the day? To start the morning, sorry?
To start the morning, yeah.
Beautiful. So
regular top-ups, though, across the day.
So we'll stick with Benny Boy. He'll be loving this. He'll be listening, no doubt. And I wanted to use him because...
case study.
So the little case study we're putting forward here, and we'll put some more case studies with other people and their lifestyles. But he's now gone to work. So he's had that. He's freshened up. He's off to work. They might have smoko, at what time? 10:30, 11 o'clock. Yeah. What should he be having in that little period?
Yeah, so we go again there. So it can either be an early lunch or it can be a snack. So often we get someone like, Benny Mack, he's trained early. So smoko at 10, he's been awake for 6 hours. So, if you're starving there, I often encourage a lot of people to bring lunch forward. Or again, we have this kind of double lunch situation. So might be some leftovers, might be a sandwich or a wrap, might be the old tuna rice and, maybe adding some salad or some veggies to it. There's a few different options there.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that is enough fuel to get to what time in the day now? So back to work for the great man. How much more energy until you need to eat another meal?
Someone like this with really high energy output should be eating about every 3 hours, no more than 4. So, I think that's something to have in the back of your mind, because what can often happen is we train, we get something in because we're not super hungry after, and then we get to the end, like lunchtime, and then we're just starving for the rest of the day. So I guess what we're talking about here is like front footing the day, just so it's a little bit more of an even spread, and that starvation and those sugar cravings and that just ravenous hunger at the back end of the day is more controlled. So we've had our deconstructed yogurt, we've had our sandwich, then maybe around that 1, 2 o'clock, just depending on when they get a break again. It's something similar to what we've had at lunch. So whether it's the same, whether we've had a sandwich there and we've got leftovers, whether we're doing like the tuna rice combo, it needs to still have good amount of protein, which is 20 grams or more, whole grain carbohydrates, so our rice cup, our bread, we need some colours and we want some healthy fats to complete it. So yeah, that's what we're looking at there.
And obviously hydration throughout.
Totally, yeah. Hydration, definitely.
Right, so we're about halfway, okay? So we've seen the great man after work, he's knackered, but he goes to footy training that night,
he does.
Right? For example, anyone else out there that's a tradie goes to any sporting, training. So they finish work at 2:30, 3 o'clock because they're up so early. Then what? They've got to wait till training about 6, call it 6, right? Between that time, what are we doing? Are we not eating as much now? We're still loading. Like, what are we?
No, I mean, the one thing, and I know when we get to talking about it, we're going to dive into it a lot more, but one thing that I talk to a lot of people about, professional athletes, Benny Mac, everyone in between, is what I call the fueling framework. So 4 hours out from a session, minus obviously if we're training at 5 a.m. I'm not talking about getting up at 1 a.m. and forcing something down, but our afternoon training people, evening training, ideally 4 hours before that session, you want to have that meal. So if we're thinking it's a 6 o'clock, he's had his second break at 2, we get that, say we get the leftovers in there.
Yes, yeah.
Then 2 hours, we get 2 hours before the session, so we might knock off, get home from work.
4 o'clock.
Yep. We want to have another pretty good snack there. So
what's a good snack again? Sorry.
Smoothie. Detail, yeah.
Just a new one, like just something, get options.
Might get home, we might make a smoothie, we might coconut water, maybe in this one, maybe with some frozen fruits, maybe with some oats, toasted sandwich. For some people that might be a bit heavy, but some people can definitely get like a toasted sandwich.
What's in it? Tomato, cheese, ham, is that all right?
Cheese, tomato, pretty simple. Another one might be like banana and peanut butter on some toast, and again, it might be having that with a bit of milk or something there just to kind of get a bit more hydration in, get a bit more protein in.
A lot of dairy, and I love dairy, but what if you don't like dairy?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like dairy, we can go the soy milk option, or we don't have to have that. So we can, omit that. But if you do like it, soy milk can be a really good option for someone who is going with a plant-based milk. And then, an hour out from the session, 30 to 60 minutes out, you'd want to have like a primer. So that's where that's that really kind of simple, like we were talking about, you're running onto the track and you're getting your dried fruit or your pretzels or your sarkartas. So kind of like in the 4 hours before a session, you want to kind of have 3 occasions of eating. So what I'll often see is someone's had one. They've had a meal 4 hours before and then there's nothing, and then they're gassing or tanking or feeling really fatigued, where it's trying to train them to have a strategy so they know how to adjust. Okay, well, it's 4 o'clock today, so, lunch, if it's around 12, I'll get my snack and then my primer and I'm sweet. Whereas if it's a 6 o'clock training session, and they're still using the same strategy, that's an extra 2 hours there. So it's nearly where we're adding that extra option in, or we're bulking it out so it's a bit more suitable. So fueling framework, 4 hours out, meal 4, snack 2, primer 30 to 60.
What's a primer? Sorry, how do you describe what a primer means?
So primer is purely something that will prime the body, which is purely your carbohydrate foods. So your fruit, your dried fruit, maybe this is where the lollies might pop in. Again, like I'm not saying every day, but something that is purely carbohydrate. Little hit, pick yourself up, off you go.
So very small amount, just a little handful.
Yeah.
There you go. So then you go out, you have a big session. What if it's only a light session? Do you pull back on the food 4 hours out?
Yeah, look, if it's a recovery session, it's probably less of the carbohydrate component, or it may be just 2 of those 3 options. So, yeah, if it's just, captain's run stylist session versus your main session, we do have different strategies, but like the principles do stay the same. It's just more the amount or the size of the composition.
So if you're going to strong Pilates, our friends there, or you're going to the gym and just doing a workout, upper body strength, lower body strength, or you're going to just do some cardio, you're running around the 10, or, you're in Sydney running, Bronte to Bondi, that is the routine, or you're going to footy training, that is the perfect, routine prior to that workout at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, if it's 60 minutes or more and you're training at a high intensity, they're definitely what you should be looking to do.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And then after, because it's going to be, you finish up at 7:30, okay? You're probably ready to go to bed at about 9. These blokes go to bed pretty early, and ladies out there as well. What are we eating afterwards? So you'd probably be pretty hungry after that workout, but you also have to get to sleep.
Totally.
So I want you to link the sleep component now with nutrition. What are we doing here?
This is where it kind of, can get confusing for people, because it's like, well, aren't I not meant to eat after this time? And what am I meant to do here? Whereas recovery takes priority over having 2 to 3 hours from eating your main meal to sleep, because if sometimes things just don't have the capacity to fit in, it's like, what's the hierarchy? So, the other thing I often see is people skip meals because they have trained really hard. And as you know, it's quite hard to eat when you've really just busted your backside. But what then we'll often see is this flow over effect the next day. You're just starving. You're cooked, you're exhausted, all of the above. So this is where this training yourself comes in. So ideally you've had something prepped, so you're just home, eat it, have a shower, start to wind down. So pasta dish, a rice dish. If that just sounds too heavy, like maybe it is something a bit more simple, like eggs on toast with some veggies, like an omelette style. We still want those kind of elements I've touched on, but you do have to look at what can I physically eat? What am I going to start to kind of improve? But yeah, I guess the take home message is if you've trained late, you still need to have a proper recovery meal. And then, have your shower, wind down and get to bed. But look, in the ideal, if you can control mealtime, bedtime, the ideal from a sleep hygiene point of view is 2 to 3 hours in terms of eating it, digesting, and, having the best of both worlds.
So eat 2 to 3 hours prior to putting the head on the pillow.
If you can.
And why is that?
So it has to do with how much you're digesting. So if you've eaten a big meal, you're in bed, you're digesting it, it can really kind of impact your ability to get to sleep. And it's also just, it comes into this sleep hygiene. So nutrition's not the only factor that influences sleep, alcohol, what we've eaten across the day, screen time, but it's one kind of key piece that can influence how we get to sleep and depth of sleep.
There you go. Well, if you're a tradie out there, I've just done you a huge favour. I thought there's probably it fits a lot of people, a tradie. Thank you for that. That's great, and it gives everyone a bit of an idea of what the day should look like. There's options there. And back to what you're doing now. The beautiful thing about Eat Like the Elite program is that you can taper what their lifestyle looks like and their programs and their exercise or whatever they're doing. You have the ability to kind of go, oh, you don't like that? Well, let's mix it with this. That's the beautiful thing about signing up to your program, isn't it?
Totally. And, I think it's really good that we've kind of touched on. I know I can get very these are the elements, I call them, but the nutrients. I know I talk a lot of protein, carbs, colours, healthy fats, but I do that but provide a lot of real life examples because I really believe that if you know your 4 main elements, which is the ones I've touched on, protein, carbs, colours and healthy fats, you know what foods contain them, and then you look at how you like to eat and you understand what they do, it's honestly the most important nutrition lesson you will learn because you will then start to be like, oh, when I've done this, that's why I feel so amazing because I've ticked those boxes, or I feel like shit and that's because I've skipped this, or I haven't eaten for 5 hours, or I had that massive double yesterday, didn't eat after, and there's this consequence. So it nearly starts to kind of connect the dots and create this self-awareness. So it's all inside Eat Like the Elite, but plenty of free content that we put out on my Instagram and potentially in some other new places coming soon.
Yes, there is. And if you need some of this content, it is, I've told Spendy, I don't know why, she should be charging everyone for this, a subscription fee. It's amazing. So head to your Instagram page, your handle, is it just your name?
It's Jess _Spendlove _Dietitian.
There you go. The underscores, they can get you sometimes. So make sure you head online on Instagram after this and check out what Jess is talking about. Now, I want to be devil's advocate, right? I've heard a lot of people talk, I've got a lot of mates that have all these ideas and ask me, and I've got no idea because I have to ask you. Fasting. You've just touched on what it looks like. People think, nah, fast till 12 and smack food till 6, right? What's your feedback to that? Yeah, what's the go there?
I'm all about whatever works for the person. But when people tell me they do that, and then I'm like, okay, well, what are you actually doing in that 6 hours? And they're just doing whatever they want, eating whatever they want. It's like that isn't actually optimizing how you feel. So that can be a means of potentially controlling their energy and managing their weight. But when we're talking about optimal performance, which is what I'm all about, on the sporting field or in the boardroom or just getting around on the day-to-day, feeling your best, looking your best, I can guarantee that's not ticking all those boxes. It's a management strategy. It can be a way to offset or to control or give yourself excuses to eat what you want, put some bumper bars on it, but it's certainly not about optimal performance.
So people would do that might be wanting to look leaner, but they wouldn't be feeling good, would they?
No, and if you're someone who trains in the morning, fasting isn't going to work for you because getting some recovery nutrition in is not only going to help the adaptation to the training, whatever that might be, getting stronger or just getting fitter or, just, again, feeling your best. And what you will find, there'll be that kind of overflow consequence. So I get a lot of people saying, oh, what about this compared to that? And I'm like, what's the flow-on consequence of doing this or that? If you do this, how will you feel later that day, the next day? It's kind of like the ripple effect. Whereas if you do this, what is it? And it's kind of taking that more global approach.
You've seen so many athletes and people in your life so far. What's the one common thing that you just always hear and see and you're like, oh, not again, but it's just a common theme, if there is one?
If I think about high-performing behaviours, which I know work, one of them is fueling for the work that you're going to do. So, professional athletes, they come in, they have to train early in the morning. So if you're not a breakfast eater, that's a really hard shift to make because you're out busting your backside for 3 hours and you've not got any fuel on board. So I think this notion that we just kind of eat after we train, I don't think people pay as much attention to what they do at the front half of the day. So for anyone, even if you're like not an active person, but it's just like you go to work and you want to feel your best, if you're off the wagon, feeling like crap at the end of the day, craving sweet foods, having a massive dinner, that's a byproduct of what you're not doing at the front of the day. So we want to look at that front half. So that's probably, yeah.
There you go. It's well said. And what about a real high intense workout? I used to really struggle with, I was in rehab there with my left calf tendon for a good chunk of the year, and I had to do a lot of high intensity training sessions. And if I had breakfast, I'd throw it up, right? And it was just a horrific feeling throwing up breakfast. So I just started having nothing. Now, probably the wrong thing to do. Should I have been getting up earlier and trying to get that meal in so it would get down my stomach? Or what's your feedback to someone in that scenario?
So yeah, there's a few things. I mean, like to that point, that's really unpleasant. You don't want to be feeling sick, vomiting, so understandable why you'd skip. A few things there. One, liquids can be a really good way because they digest a bit quicker. And the other thing, if that's something that you've always struggled with, like taking the approach, I'm going to have something. While there's ideals, it's like progress over perfection. So, having something, when you were living in the East or wherever, like it was a bit of a drive in, having something on the way rather than when you got there, even if it was a piece of fruit, smoothie, something like that.
I had a coffee, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just used to have a coffee just so I could lean up, but it was probably the wrong thing to do. A banana would be not a bad, I'd have a banana. Yeah. Banana was the only thing I could really have. Yeah. Is that enough?
Look, I can't remember. I can't touch on, how long the sessions were, but it probably wasn't enough, but at least it was something.
Yeah.
The thing I wanted to say there was though, like, whoever you are, like say you've never been to the gym and you're like, I want to go bench press 100 kilos. You don't walk into the gym and do that straight away. You get a training program, takes months, etc. You want to run a marathon and you're not a runner. You got to go through a full training program. So training yourself to eat the way you need to is the exact same approach. It's training yourself to tolerate more. And I guess, what I'll say is you can train your gut and your brain to trust the process and know what you need. But it's just taking little incremental steps. And it's also playing around with a few different options. So, for yourself, it might have been coffee and a banana, a few weeks, and then maybe we might have dialed it up to, I don't know, again, like a smoothie, or maybe it was a piece of toast, white toast, very fast digesting with banana and honey on top. So we just kind of slowly train it up because while eggs on toast with avocado might be an amazing breakfast, if you're on the bike, gassing yourself in the next 90 minutes.
The assault bike. Don't even just mention it. I'll throw it right now.
That's where that fueling framework comes in. Like if you're having a meal 90 minutes before when I've said you need it for 4 hours, it's just too close. The food is physically still in your stomach. It hasn't digested, and that's why it's coming up. So, yeah, it's knowledge is power, and but just trust the process. You can train it. But you got to have the information and the knowledge on how to do that. Just
on that, because a lot of people out there, they get up and they get to these 5:30 or 6 a.m. sessions. Like first thing, they wake up, go straight to the gym or the whatever the workout is. It's very tough to get something in your stomach there, isn't it? So what do you, because you're trying to get the workout in so you feel good for your day. Yeah. But also you don't have enough time to get up.
Totally.
Because you want more sleep. So what are you saying to those people?
So if you're doing, say, it's like a 45-minute session, yep. You can get away with not having anything.
Why is that?
Because 45 minutes, you can work at a pretty high intensity without needing something immediately on board.
Yeah, you got enough fuel from last night.
Dip into last night. Once you push past 45 minutes, you do start to like kind of fatigue, whereas where that would have benefited. So again, it's something easy. Maybe it's like some dried fruit on the way in the car, sultanas or apricots or like dried apple. dried mango is a good one, or again, it's half a banana. It's just something. So like you can definitely get away with the training session without it, but if you're particularly wanting to put on size, put on muscle, you want to be trying to force something in, just something little, like again, yogurt pouch, piece of fruit, just to start that process. You'll get more out of your session and then you recover. But if you're going to a Pilates, a yoga, F45, you can get away without having something for sure. That's probably the 45 minutes is that, the the maximum amount that you could train for without anything.
It's brilliant. I've kind of touched on nutrition with exercise. What about if I just get rid of exercise? Now, I know you shouldn't do that. I don't know why you would, but some people just, they don't, maybe they go for a walk. But you mentioned a lot of food and carbs and all that. Is there anything that you then taper towards that person? Maybe they're a little bit older. Their body's just not up to all these exercises that we can do when we're younger. Is there, are you pulling carbs out of their nutritional plan?
I'm not pulling them out, reducing them. The one thing I see people when they want to lose weight, maybe they're injured, maybe they don't like to move, whatever it might be, and they want to cut carbs, and my thing to that is that whole idea I said before of what's the consequence of doing that. For example, steak and veggies for dinner, steak and greens. Are you then getting hungry after dinner and are you then in the snack pantry on the sweets versus if you had one potato or a little bit of rice, say a quarter of the plate, and you were a bit more satisfied and then you weren't doing that. So it's not about cutting them out. You don't need as much, that's for sure. The protein and the colours become the focus, but you still, so, your steak, your chicken, tofu, if you eat that, your dairy, that's the focus, as well as your fruits and your veggies. Still want the bread, the rice, it can still sit there, but it's not as much if you're not moving as much.
I'll tell you what, Spendy, I'm going to ruin all our segments. We've got 1,000 shows coming your way, so I'll hold my questions because we've got some exciting news to tell everyone. Thank you for touching on a few of those ones. I've got to hold myself back here. I'm getting a bit excited. Do you want to tell everyone what we're going to be doing?
So very exciting news, everyone. We are going to be launching a spin-off, podcast series. So Aces Nutrition is coming your way. So hopefully you've liked what I've touched on here because you're going to be hearing about it more. And we're going to break in a lot of categories. We had a survey that we put out about 4 months ago. We've been working our backsides off to get this done. Obviously, Jess is based in Sydney. I'm in Melbourne. And I'd say you're very busy. I pretend I'm busy. But we've finally got together and we're going to, get some of these episodes out. And, we're going to put out a fair few and get some feedback along the way. And it's been just massive thank you to the Aces community and all your followers as well. Spendy, we had, hundreds of people fill out the survey. And it was quite, it wasn't the easiest one. It was quite long and we wanted it to be like that so we can get a lot of feedback. And there's a lot of questions and we've kind of, broken down the top 5 to start and then we'll get some more feedback along the way. So Aces Nutrition is the podcast that we're going to launch together. Yep. I'm going to be asking a lot of the questions on behalf of, the Aces community and everyone out there that wants the answers to it. And Spendy is going to be the specialist she is in answering your questions. And there's a lot of things that we're going to do along the way, but I'm quite excited. Yeah, it'll be good. Like you said, it's a podcast for the people. It's what they want to know. I can sit here going, I've done this and worked with this person and this team and whatever, but this is about breaking it down. It'll be technical, but it'll be practical. So it's something which we want people to learn, know, and know that it's evidence-based, but it's something they can walk away and do, rather than the old Dr. Google, which is just a mixed bag of whatever comes up there. We want value, right, Spendy? We want value. We've always said entertainment, inspiration and education at the Ausmerican Aces, and I feel like this will be a lot of education. Hopefully it's very entertaining along the way. I'll be asking a lot of questions. For example, to give you a glimpse of what we're going to be talking about, it could be gut health, it could be, muscle, putting on muscle mass, could be losing body fat, it could be alcohol, the side effects. We all love a drink, but what's what should we be doing? What's actually happening to our bodies? There's thousands of topics that we're going to go through and we're going to really break them down. So are you happy with Aces Nutrition? Oh, the name was I kept it basic. I had a few, but it was the hardest, but we wanted short, sharp, sweet. It connects with everything you're doing. It is about nutrition. I think, happy days.
Happy days. And look, I want to just mention your program again. For anyone out there that really does need some help, that's why you've gone out and you're doing this on your own, and you've just launched it. Where are we heading, and what are the services? What does it cost? Let's break it all down. Yeah. Are there tiers? What are we doing here?
So my website's the best place to see it all. So jessicaspendlove.com. Pretty easy to find with my last name. So jump on there, and then Eat Like the Elite is my baby. I feel like it's my life's work. So it's literally everything from the last 25 years. So from little Jess when she was swimming, into seeing the dietitian, into the uni, into the 35 seasons in pro sport over the last decade, into wanting to spread that message, to the people now, like just get it out there, what I've learned. So Eat Like the Elite is the program, and then there's 3 tiers. So there's something for everyone. There's your baseline, which is the people that just want the info and I'm going to go and do it myself. There's the premium tier, which is I want a bit more support. I want a Facebook community. I want live Q&A sessions. I want to have access to me and be able to ask questions when they like. And they'll also get access to additional recordings like masterclasses that I'll run. And then for my people that are like, I want it, I want access to you, and I also want you to be able to check what I'm doing. You want the VIP tier where you get a quarterly meal plan. You fill out what you're doing for a week, your training and your nutrition. You send it to me. I give you comments, feedback, other recommendations, and send it back. So that's kind of as good as it gets, rather than, then investing and working in like a premium coaching program, which, it's a big time commitment and energy commitment from both parties. So yeah, Eat Like the Elite is where it all is, and it's something for everyone there.
There you go. And the tiers, what do they all cost, just for people out there?
So baseline is $49 a month, premium is $69 a month, and the VIP is $149 a month.
There you go. And they always say invest in yourself. So if you want to invest in yourself, your body, into nutrition, Spendy's worked with everyone. That's the beautiful thing about Spendy, and why we're linking up is there's the sports side and there's also the people side, and you've worked with numerous of people and corporates, and you've done all these kind of keynote presentations. You put it all into one for the people, and I think you're going to get a lot of our Aces listeners. They're going to jump at this, because I couldn't tell you how many people have asked me just little questions on the way, and I'd probably message you and say, hey, what's the end? They think I'm a superstar. But yeah, there you go. Aces Nutrition with Jessica Spendlove coming your way. Tommy Talks with Jessica Spendlove, first female guest. It's great to see you. It's great to get this one out the way. And I think we just dived into a little bit of what's coming. And I think Benny Mac, I hope he doesn't mind us using his name there. If any Sparkies are out there, we've just given you Benny's routine and his nutritional plan, haven't we?
He's flying. It's just, people like that motivated need a bit of structure, a bit of tips, strategies and frameworks, which, is what it's all about. It's not downloading what old mate's doing or this PT's doing or whatever. Learn the key principles and apply it to your life, and off you go.
There you go. Now, you don't come on the Tommy Talks without a little present.
Here we go.
Right? So we've got our little Ricks and retirement segment, and I'd love to ask you, because you're well-travelled, you've been around. Now, these are for you. These are the Ricks Eyewear Brookfield Gloss Black with a green lens.
Fancy.
They are fancy. They are for you. So
thank you.
They are on the house. So anyone out there that needs a pair of sunnies this spring, we've just got some new ones in. Seen some photos, and I'm very excited.
Nice.
We do all kinds of shapes and sizes, but yeah, anywhere eyewear. So Spenny, you can throw them on for this segment. I'm going to ask you the question that we always like to ask our guests, Ricks and retirement.
Here we go.
Once Eat Like the Elite blows up and gets bought out by billions of dollars, for billions of dollars, I should say, where would Jessica Spendlove love to take, there you go, her Ricks and retire, and why?
Oh, goodness. I don't know if I'll ever retire. I'm someone who loves to work, but what I'm trying to do, I guess, is like scale it back, which is the whole why I'm out of professional sport now, because it was a 6 or a 7 day a week thing. So look, for me, I'm a Sydney gal and I love it. It's, but capacity to travel, work from where I want, do a bit of consulting, work on my program. But yeah, I like to use my brain. So I don't know if I'll ever fully switch it off.
So where would you be then if Sydney?
Yeah, Sydney, but with frequent trips to the old Europe. Got to love a European trip, and then, some America trips in there as well. But yearly European travel, wouldn't say no to that.
Where's the one place in Europe you take the Ricks?
Oh, Italy's speaking to me right now.
Oh, geez, don't get me started.
The older mouthy.
How many people are on Instagram just putting up European summer flicks? You just almost want to block them for a month.
Totally, yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, look, as I said, everyone out there that wants a pair of Rixies, we've got the discount code ACES, 20% off and free express shipping. Spendy, thanks for your time. Really appreciate you flying down for this one. And like I said, Aces, we've got a nutrition show coming your way. It's going to be very exciting. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show because it's coming very soon. Thanks for listening to another episode. If you enjoy listening to our podcast, please feel free to hit us up on our social channels at Ausmerican Aces. If you're entertained, inspired, or feel more educated, please share it with your friends and family because we appreciate the support. Righto, catch you on the next one.